Welcome my web dev friends. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a slider in a React app or website using Swiper.js. Now, Swiper already has its own craziness in regular old front-end development, but then when you actually transition into using Swiper inside of React, it's a whole completely different beast. And being able to master how to do sliders is one of the really important parts of front-end web development. So I remember when I first started, I was just mastering knowing how to make a slider is just super important inside of any website. Guys, if you like front-end development, Next.js, React, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel and drop a comment below. Let's go. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a slider using Swiper.js within React. We're going to control the slide itself and make it go full screen. I'm also going to show you how to change the color of the arrows because I have no idea why Swiper ships with this funky blue left navigation arrows, but for some reason they do. Apparently they have no designers on the team, but they do. So one, I'm going to show you how to change the colors. Also, I'm going to show you how to change the navigation to custom arrows because that's very common. You're going to do that globally, and then also how to do that within a component because it's completely different to do it inside of a CSS component. One extra bonus, stay around for the videos. I'm going to show you how to remove this flicker that is very common. If you search, it's very common inside of Swiper that when you're navigating, there's this flicker that appears a lot. I'm going to show you how to remove that as well. So let's jump into the computer and get started. So this is the slider. Again, here's just a demo of what we're going to do. It's just a regular old slider. But what's cool is that once you implement Swiper, Swiper has all these amazing options that you can do, such as like show multiple slides in one, change the positioning, the slides and everything. So there's so much to do, but this is just the slider. So this is what we're going to be building in this tutorial. Now I have a regular old boilerplate React web page. I have globals and I also have a home.module. That's a CSS module inside of React. Also have Sass. So what you want to do is I have Sass, so I have npm install Sass SASS, which did that just sound right? Okay, hopefully that all right, I actually never said it out loud. But then so install that npm I SASS and install that package JSON file. It will be right here. And then also npm I swiper, which I already did. So you're just going to go ahead and do npm I swiper and just hit enter and it's going to install that. I also did npm I SASS, so just do that and then have your modules there. Okay. Once that's done, we're going to go to a regular old boilerplate React file. So I have here regular old React. So what we're going to do is, and I am using Next.js, but I'm not going to be using anything particular from Next.js inside of this tutorial. So you're going to do import use ref because that's going to be something common that we're going to need to make some references inside of the Swiper. So what we're going to do is we're going to start importing the Swiper stuff. So first thing is we're going to import swiperSlide from Swiper React. Okay, that's just common. This is just, again, just common old Swiper, how to import it using Swiper React. You can find this information in the documentation. I'm just showing you to make it easy. Then what you got to do is import the Swiper has its own CSS files that it comes with. It's default, and you could always override those. So you just want to install those. So import Swiper, and this is, again, this is related to Swiper. What you also want to do is, now this is where it gets a little confusing. They create modules. So in order to create a navigation, do different effects, do different things, there's things called modules. So you want to import that separately. And I'm going to import the navigation module and the effect fade, which I'll talk about later, from Swiper. Then you want to go ahead and import Swiper, the CSS for the navigation, and CSS for the effect fade. You don't need the effect fade particularly, but I'm going to be using in this tutorial later on to show you how to slide as well as fade transition in between the slides. So now we have the basic stuff kind of imported. Again, these are extra things, right? But you're going to need navigation, you're going to need effect. And for some reason, Swiper just separates it all. I don't know why they don't just kind of have it all imported in one. It's all in these separate modules. That's what confused me in the beginning. So you want to do that. Now we want to go ahead and create just a boilerplate, simple old Swiper. And this comes from the documentation. So what we're going to do is just, it's Swiper. Okay, so opening, closing Swiper. Now there's all these attributes that we need to add, all the stuff inside of Swiper. So one are the modules. Okay, these are the modules which are really objects. So the first one is navigation. and one we're going to use later called effect fade. Now you don't need the effect fade right away. That's an additional module. I'll show you how to use that later. And you don't need navigation, but we need it for this tutorial. So the next thing is you want to import the navigation. Make sure you have attributes for navigation. Go ahead and do the effect, which right now is just the default, but I'll show you how to override that. Then we're going to give it the speed object, which is going to be, speed equals, and then I'm just going to give it 800 as a speed of 800. These are just regular old attributes that Swiper needs. Then we're going to do slides per view, and I'm going to be giving it 1. I just want 1 slide per view as I showed you in the demo. Then we're going to loop. You can give it a class name. I'm going to give it a custom class name so I can override things later on. So I'm just going to call it mySwiper. So it's going to add a class name called styles.mySwiper. Now we want to include the swiperSlide. And we're just going to close this, right? And then we're going to put the image inside here. The image I'm going to go ahead and use. All right. Let's see what happens if I click save. All right. So it did something, right? Now, again, what's cool about Swiper is that it doesn't control the CSS. It just gives you the function of content that you can just slide. You can technically just put regular old text in here. Now we have a custom class called mySwiper. I also want one for the slide because I'm going to want to custom do things to these. Okay, let's just duplicate this 3 times, and I'm going to change this now from X. I have a few images, and this is just regular old Swiper, and it looks funky, right? Because we have no CSS. We have Swiper installed, right? Looks ugly, but we have the function installed. So now we want to go ahead and do some custom fix these images up. So I'm going into my CSS, my Sass module file. So container is just what I have here. It's the root div. So that's fine. And I have Sass, so I'm going to work that way. So, and I'm going to nest. So mySwiper. And then I'm going to do swiperSlide. The first thing is I want my swiper to be width of 100%. I don't want to go past the page. All right, so now, see now what it did to the images. Now it's not like going across like that. And that's the flicker that I was telling you about that is very common, is particularly in Safari and even Chrome related to Swiper. We'll fix that later. But now we have this. Now we want to fix the slide images so that they don't expand. We want to control these images. So we're going to do image, so width 100%, and then we're going to do height 100%. And now we're going to do object fit, cover, and save. Hopefully we did this right. Okay. Oh, I get so excited when we do this right. Guys, we did this, which is good. All right. So you can see here. Now, this is default Swiper. So it's actually working. So phase 1, we got it working. Now, obviously there's a few things. The arrows look funky. You could see the size of the images. One is off, one is larger. That's because we didn't fully control Swiper. We're just using default Swiper, and it's showing the image in its own aspect ratio. Okay, but what we can do now is control the size of the containing swiper and then have those go full screen. So for example, if on mySwiper we change this to height, let's say 80 VH, just so we can see something. Now you see here, I'm controlling this. The swiperSlide images are all filling the swiper. So if we go 100 VH, we can have a full screen swiper. And this was the original demo that I was showing you earlier. And that's it. And that's pretty much we didn't do too much work here, and we have a working slider. It can be one of the most important parts of your career is creating these sliders. Who would have known? The next step is, how do we make a fade? So let me show you the effect fade. Now, originally in the documentation, they don't show you the effect fade. This is like an additional module. So in that case, we added the module here, effect fade. We added it as a module inside the swiper, and now we need to add it here under effect. We have to say effect, be a string here. So this is going to say fade, and if I did this right, I'm going to refresh, and here we are. Okay, I just say these. Sometimes these are the hard refresh, hard reload doesn't work. So now we just have the fade. So this is cool. So by default, swiper is going to slide when you add the effect fade, and then now what's cool is they have a bunch of other transitions you could use. But the problem, not the problem, but it's a little tedious. You have to add these modules every time you choose something else. We got the navigation. Let's change this ugly blue color into this white. So what we could do is go to the globals.css. Oh, I actually had it here hidden. So this is if you want to do it globally. And shortly I'm going to show you how to do it inside of the module file in case you don't want to affect, all the sliders across everything. But this is pretty easy. And in vanilla Swiper on the front end development without React, this is actually more complicated. But I think they actually improved this. So now you can just say color white. And I believe you need the important. Let me see if I remove the important, if it still works. Yeah, you need the important to override it. This is almost good enough. I mean, you don't really need to change these. I do want to show you, because I know if you're doing any front-end development, like you don't always want to use these arrows. Like sometimes, designers make really cool arrows. So I'll show you how to do that next. But this is pretty good, right? Just get rid of that blue color was a huge deal. I remember when I first learned this, I was like, I could not change that blue color. And I was like, guys, we are going to launch a slider with this ugly blue color. I don't care what you say, because I don't know how to fix it. But no, so now we actually are going to change the background of this arrow and include our own custom one. So we need to say swiper button next. We need to just give it a background repeat, background size contain, background position center, no repeat. The next step is we need to change the after pseudo element to display none, because that is what shows the arrow. So we don't want to show anything. So if we hit save, these should go away. Oh, there they are. So they went away. So we've stripped away the default arrows. Now that I'm basically saying, I want you to use my CSS, I want to change the background image of those arrows. Now I can identify and say, hey, use this image, arrow left, I have a PNG left arrow. And if I click save, this should work. There it is. I have a really thin, nice thin arrow designer designed, which is very nice. It might be a little too subtle, but this was one that we had. And then for the next one, we could just change the background image to one that we have next. And now it's all still working, no changes. You have all the swiper working left, right, and now you have custom arrows, right? That is like a huge deal, because I tell you. Now, this is kind of enough, because probably on a website, you're going to change the arrows across the website, but I want to show you how to do it in the component itself, because you don't always want to touch the global file. So let's hide this and let's go back to the default. So right now, we need to make a used ref for each. So I'm going to make swiper nav, name this whatever you want. It's my own reference. We need to create a ref identification for each. And now I need to create those elements. I'm just copying and pasting some stuff I had. Don't want to waste too much time rewriting everything. But if you look here, so all we're doing is now we are manually creating these elements, and we're saying I need them to be identified with this ref, because we want to do something with that. We want to tell Swiper to use these. And I'm also giving it a custom CSS class that I'm going to be using inside my module. This is the default. So if I hide this guy, right, that's the default. This goes away. Now we want to tell Swiper, use these two random elements I made to be the function of the left and right. Pretty, simple. Again, copying and pasting here just to save time. And this is, again, from the documentation. Click save. Now, technically behind the scenes, this is working, but you don't see it because now that we have these totally custom elements, think about it before I answer. Why can you not see it? Because we didn't give this any CSS yet. This all out, but just to save time, I'm going to just paste it here and should walk you through what it is. All we're doing here is telling it, since this is invisible, we need to give it a width and we need to give it a height. I'm positioning them both absolute, getting them centered vertically on the page, giving them a cursor pointer, giving it the same background repeat that we had on the global files, giving them the same and saying, hey, for the swiper nav previous, I want you to go on the left, position left, and I want you to use this arrow left, and for the swiper nav next right element, I want you to go on the right. So let's save here and let me hit a refresh. Hopefully, okay, there it is. Actually, when you click here, something's not right, but swiping works here. So here's where the annoying things come from, and you have to start Googling, going crazy to figure stuff out. So here's like a little nuanced, strange thing inside of when you create custom elements inside of the module. When you click here, this wasn't working. Now, all the code is correct. The problem is there's some issue on initiation. So I have this code, and you could just copy this. It's in the docs as well, but when this initiates, you need to tell Swiper to update this navigation. It's a particular issue with navigation and some of these elements that on initiation don't catch. And then if you click save, that should pretty much fix that issue. So now all the custom elements work. Now, if you don't, use this custom inside of the module, you won't run into this issue necessarily. You could just use the global one. But it's important to know these things because if you start doing more customizations, you're going to run into these things. So this is an important code block that you need to add inside of your swiper as an attribute. So now the next thing I want to show you is get rid of this one flicker. This is just a bonus. And also, how do you map over this so you don't have to add additional slides? There it is. You see that flicker. So now what we have to do is I need to add this transform translate z to 0 because it's just crazy that this fixes it. I don't know why Swiper doesn't have this fixed, but adding this should, and if anyone knows anything else or doesn't, hopefully it continues to work. But for now, it gets rid of that flicker. Let's do one last thing for this video, which is let's map over photos and let's just do it manually. So all we have to do is create an array, a const called const photos. And I'm just gonna make an array, and I'm just gonna make it with a series of strings with the image name, which I have. So we just have an array of photos here. And let me just hide these guys. All right. So I wanna map over this. We're just using the map method. So photos.map, we're gonna map over the array. We're using the arrow function here, and then we are going to bring this over here. If we map over this, I got no errors, meaning it works, but now I just mapping over. So what you need to do is now change this into an object, the custom image from the array. Use the variable called photo, and we need to say toString because we want to convert this to a string. And oh, we got it. So now we have a regular old swiper, and now we have these dynamically being created. If this was coming from a CMS, or also just to make it easy, now we just have these photos listed in an array. We don't have to write all the swiper slides in case we want to make additional things. We have to do it multiple times. So that's great. Is there anything else here? I think this covers everything. All right, guys. I mean, is there anything else? I don't know. Drop in the comments below. Hopefully this tutorial wasn't too long, but I wanted to kind of show you all these ins and outs of Swiper and how to use it in React. I think that covers everything, guys. If you guys are interested in front-end development, Next.js, React, full stack development, just hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the comments below. All right, guys. Enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.